Good morning, and thank you for staying with Citizen TV. I am Anki Guta. Welcome to Citizen Extra, and we are taking you around the country where news is breaking. We'll be live for you in different locations. But this hour, we also want to talk about devolution and governance issues, and I'll introduce my guests to you straight off the bat. To my immediate right is Dr. Robert Kagiri. He's a director of Center for Strategy and Policy Management at the Africa Policy Institute. Next to him is city lawyer Dunstan Omari, and next to him is Gabriel Muzuma, who is a political analyst. And you're all welcome to the program this morning. So let's start with taking charge and county governments that are being formed now, and we have seen some significant action in terms of staff from various counties, and let me outline it for you quickly. In Siaya County, we saw chaos erupt when youth attempted to evict officials who the alleged campaigned against Governor Colonel Rasanga. In Meru, we saw Governor Kiraitu Murungi suspend all chief officers in ward and sub-county administrators, calling for a thorough audit of county expenditure. In Uasin Gishu, Jackson Mandago, who is the incumbent governor, warned those who did not support him to repent or face some action. Yes, in Tharaka Nithi, Governor Muthomi Njuki suspended 1,061 workers to clean up the county payroll. Last week in Machakos, Governor Alfred Mutua suspended 437 finance department officers. And it is this sort of action that has seen the Public Service Commission today warn county governments against the arbitrary sacking of its employees, saying that it would occasion some hefty legal costs. PSC has cautioned against irregular sackings, saying that the threats by newly sworn-in governors to dismiss county employees as punishment, among other things, cannot be allowed. And so, straight off the bat, gentlemen, I've read to you the riot act by some county officials. Your thoughts on what governors are doing, and is this surprising at all? Let's start with you, Dr. Kagiri.
Thank you for having me. This is was to be expected, and we witnessed this during the last election when we were transiting to the new system. You know, in 2013 there were no systems in place. So most of these employees were actually brought in from the national government and seconded to the counties. Now the problem we are having now is that within that period, the 4.5-year period, a lot of the employees that came in are loyal to the governor, some of them who are outgoing. So there's a problem here in understanding that these are actual civil servants, seconded by the Public Service Commission to the county public service boards, and they have security in terms of their jobs. So some of these incoming governors have not understood this part. They are more concerned about loyalty to them rather than understanding that these are public servants that cannot be arbitrarily sent home. So
right.
Yes.
But isn't part of the problem also the manner in which they were hired? For a lot of the counties is the feeling that it was cronyism, you know, everybody brought a friend of a friend, and that's how we ended up with this current crop, I beg your pardon, of county employees who are not necessarily fit to hold this office, either through in terms of their skill or merit, or possibly even what they have done over the last 4.5 years.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. There are some who are seconded from the national government to the county governments. They moved with the functions. What's a function? You know, the abiding principle is when a function moves from the national government, the money that goes with that function, the human resource that goes with that function, and the infrastructure was supposed to be devolved to the county. So they inherited some people from the national government, but they also hired some based on nepotism and cronyism, like you have rightly pointed out. But the process of removing them now must be followed, because there's a county public service board and a county, for the assemblies they have the county assembly service boards. And with these two boards, these are people who are already on contract and cannot just be arbitrarily removed. So there has to be a process. They might suspend them like Mutua has done because he wants to conduct an audit, but they cannot arbitrarily remove them, because once the audit is done they should be brought back in the fold and then follow the procedures as outlined in the Public Service Commission, because it is a reflection. What happens at the PSC should happen at the county level, at the county public service board level. So
yes.
These two should be aligned with each other in terms of treating civil servants.
Right. Dunstan, if you could follow up on that and also talk a little bit about the procedure of removing some of these officials.
And I'll tell you for free, I don't know why we are talking about this thing, because lawyers are celebrating. Lawyers are waiting to be paid hefty fees to represent the guys who are being sacked. Wanjiku, be prepared that you are going to meet those costs, because the governors, what the governors are doing is totally an illegality, but they will not pay for that illegality from their pockets. It is the county government that will pay the damages. It will pay, because all those guys will be reinstated. Let me take, for example, we have juvenile governors, we have political governors, and we have solid governors. The solid governors are people, especially the new group of governors, and also when you look at people like Kimemia in Nyandarua, when you look at people like Sospita Ojamong in Busia, when you've looked at people like Professor Nyang'nyong in Kisumu, when you look at Gakubu, the former Vision 2030 boss at Nyeri, they have said that now that we've taken power, the laws that govern these county governments, the act will take shape. For the benefits of the governors who I'm saying they are juvenile, look at a governor like Colonel Rasanga. He's saying that he's going to use a loyometer. It does not exist. You cannot say this person is loyal to me, this person is not loyal to me, therefore you pack and leave.
But arguably they're taking the cue from the president, who was in Ukambani and warned chiefs on the same line.
Those are political talks. Even the governors, whatever they are talking, is to remember people have been carried to offices with false hope, with false promises to the people who voted them that once I get in, all of you will be employed. All the youths are going to be employed. How do you satisfy that? Mutua hired the 1,450 accounting officers within his county. Today he discovers all of them are corrupt. Mutua forgets that it is courtesy of the Court of Appeal that he has not taken a plea before the anti-corruption court. Nobody can say anybody is corrupt. The question, let me deal now with the law.
Court calling the kettle black, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what I'm saying. Let me tell the law as it is. Any employee employed by the county public service board, that is a civil servant. You cannot sack him. That is what my president realized, that whether he threatens the chiefs are not employees of the president. They are employees of the Kenya National Public Service Commission. Number two, once those people, you have an issue with them, there are laid down procedures for disciplinary measures that are supposed to be taken. A due process for them to be given a charge sheet, to be given a notice. They appear before the disciplinary board. They are given in writing what the allegations are. They defend themselves. They walk to that disciplinary committee with their lawyers. A decision is made by an impartial body. There are rooms for review, and once that appeal has been dismissed, then the matter proceeds to the Judicial Review Division of the High Court or to the Industrial Labor Relations Court in every county. What I'm likely to see is that all those governors have no power other than the executive authority through an executive order which must be written. It can't be just a verbal roadside declaration during swearing in that have sacked everybody. It must be written, reasons must be given, it must be registered, and it must be approved. So in my own view, that's why I say these are purely political talks. Though the law allows free cadres of people to be sacked. One, the cabinet secretary. Any cabinet secretary, and the maximum is 10 per county. We live with the former governor who was there. Two, the chief secretaries, an equivalent of the PSS. They will leave. Those positions are supposed to be advertised. Already they have been advertised. Even from the national level, the current PSS must apply for those jobs. They go for interview before the County Public Service Board. The last group that will leave are 8 advisors. One for politics, another one for economics, another one for gender issues, whichever, there are 8. Those ones will live with the former government.
Right.
The rest of the people...
a permanent and due process.
Permanent and due process must be followed.
Gabriel, your thoughts on this?
Actually, I'll agree to an extent with what Dunstan has said, and the fact is you have those employees who everybody is saying came from the Public Service Commission, and that's very clearly understood and well defined. Even though some governors will tell you, you know what, this is a political seat, and to an extent it's a political seat. Governorship is a political seat, and where they are coming in, they are saying, you know what, we promised. And I think this is where the bone of contention is. They are saying, we promised the people who elected us that we would do 1, 2, 3. We will change things. And they have come to see, you know what, the people who came actually from the Public Service Commission are actually the problem. How do we deal with these people? And that's why Dunstan is saying there is a legal process to it. So I think they have to exhaust that. But the other people we call the CECs, if I'm not wrong, those I think it's bye-bye for most of them, because really governors came out to these positions, and we've been told there are people who are actually putting in money, and they are saying, you know what, we are going to inject funds into your campaign, and virtue of that, probably this is what we will want. So it's more of a negotiation of who gets what position. But they also must know that when the governor is exiting, then probably your tenure comes, you know, comes to an end. But having said that, there's the issue of what governors are telling the employees that they are sacking. They are telling them, we promised change, and we need to start on a clean slate. So their argument is based on, if we have to deliver that which we promised, we need to start it on a clean slate. And that clean slate is everybody going home. The problem will be, and Dunstan will agree with me, there are going to be so many, even those civil servants, who are going to fall off those of the cracks, justified by the very fact the government is saying, if you want me to deliver my mandate, I'll bet the fact that it's wrong. I need to start with a clean slate. I need to bring my people. I need to be comfortable. It's my administration. So I think the point we should take from here is that the gubernatorial seats are very political.
And I think going forward, there's something to be said about that. Should gubernatorial seats be political or administrative, or a little bit of both? I've heard in the last few days talk about, you know, should the governorship be an elected position? Should it be an appointed position? Should it be both? A governor, one is you know, the governor is political, the deputy is something else, etc. Because it is about running a county. But Dr. Kagere, if you'd pick up from where Gabriel has left off, and perhaps let me flip the question this way: what is the challenge for incoming governors when you have a team, especially for the new ones, when you have a team that you did not appoint? How do you get work done?
Well, a good way of looking at this is that the county governments and their governments are a reflection of the national government. So if you want to understand what exactly happens, the gubernatorial seat is an executive seat. And when, like Gabriel has said, when a new governor comes in, he needs a new administration. And the CECs are the first to go, who are like the ministers now in the new administration. It does not necessarily mean that you have to get rid of your whole civil service. But what you need to do is have a paradigm shift in the way the civil service operates. And then there is a way of cleaning up your own internal civil service through natural attrition, through various incentives, and there are various ways of doing it without necessarily basically throwing out the baby with the bathwater and completely blowing up the system. Because even the first governors that came in, like I've pointed out, inherited employees who had been seconded to them from the national government, and they had to go through a process of cleaning up. So the first thing when it comes to human resource, obviously, is to clean up the human resource. Find out if they are ghost workers. Sometimes you may have to transfer some of them back to national government. There's an allowance for that. You remember during the former devolution,
which really doesn't cure the problem, does it? Because if you're not useful in the county, it's difficult to see how you'd be useful at the national level as well.
No, some of these people are being removed because, as one of my colleagues pointed out, of loyalty issues. They feel that some of these were brought in by the predecessor and they are not loyal enough to them. But it has nothing to do with their competence. So if they feel threatened by these people, there is a mechanism remember we had something called the rationalization and capacity assessment CAPS program that was run during Anwaiguru's time as a devolution secretary. So there's a mechanism of moving them from one county to another or back to national government. So you do not need to remove them wholesale, and slowly bring in a team that you feel is sufficiently loyal to you. Then they do have even bigger issues to deal with. They have to come up with new integrated integrated development plans, new spatial plans, new sectorial plans. They have a lot of work to do in picking up from where the last governor was, if they were not the ones, if they're not the incumbents, in terms of setting the agenda for the next 5 years.
Looking up after them.
Setting the agenda for the next 5 years.
Right.
So they do have other bigger issues that they need to deal with. We have seen from what I've seen in the last few weeks, and I don't know whether many people have noticed, the last 1 week, the president-elect has been very focused on devolution issues. You have seen his attended inauguration ceremonies. I think him and the deputy president. So I've noticed one of the key things he wants to focus on is unifying the nation and entrenching devolution. Just by his very presence in at least I believe three inaugurations that have just happened, and his deputy was the other day in the inauguration of Anmombi Waiguru in Kirinyaga. So I'm beginning to see there's a paradigm shift in the way the problems we had before, the pull and shove that we had between national and county governments, the Council of Governors, the summits, which is the ultimate body that deals with intergovernmental relations, has not been sitting as much as it should be. But with the new shift and focus on unifying the nation, I'm beginning to see that there'll be more gelling together between the national and county governments, which is important if we were to attain what most COG members or the council has been agitating for, which is an increase from 15% to 40% vertical revenue share.
Right.
So there are many issues they need to focus on, not just the human resource aspect.
But human resource is key, because that's how you get the job done at the end of the day. So, and you've talked about that transitional transit mechanism where they can second staff back to national government,
and other counties as well,
and other counties. Be that as it may, Dunstan, how do counties go through such a process without it looking like a political witch hunt? And is there need for some sort of revision in legislation to smoothen issues around county staff, the security of tenure, and so on?
The laws that are there, and I'll tell every Kenyan watching for free, that the laws that we deal with civil servants are international laws. The International Labour Organization laws, the Employment Act, the Public Service Act, the County Government Act. So those laws are very clear. No civil servant is supposed to be political. So all civil servants are presumed to be apolitical. The top group have said of around 10 and 8 of around 28 people who are supposed to leave are assumed to be political animals who were brought in by the incumbent and who are supposed to leave or remain. In America, it is already an established rule that 4,000 people, always when an incumbent leaves, 4,000 positions you go, then a new 4,000 are recruited. And the terms are very clear, and that's why they are employed on contract basis. When you deal with civil servants are permanent and pensionable. They retire at 60, at the years of 60. They have their pension, and you cannot remove them just because you don't want their face or because you think they are loyal to another political affiliation. So let me explain to Kenyans how this question came about. Around the year 1985-84, there was what we call the pleasure principle, that civil servants are supposed to serve under the president's pleasure or the governor's pleasure. The pleasure principle is what takes this 28 people go home. The pleasure principle does not apply to civil servants, that somebody serves because of the pleasure of the government. A civil servant is permanent and pensionable. Around that time, I remember, for the benefit of the Kenyans, one officer who was a police officer, Mureithi, was transferred from the police to go and head the pigs factory in Limuru. It was a landmark decision. This man was at the airport. He refused to go to be a manager of a Limuru pigs factory during President Moi's time.
Right.
And he challenged that in court. And the argument was, he is not trained to take care with guns, pigs. He's trained to be a police officer. And it was a matter that went to the Court of Appeal. And the question of the pleasure principle was determined that civil servants cannot be removed at the pleasure of a political appointment called a president or a governor. So that is already settled. That time is when the judges, the Court of Appeal judges, the High Court judges, security of tenure was removed. We brought it back and said, you cannot remove the tenure of a judge. Remember what NASA is doing today. If those 7 judges didn't have the security of tenure, what could have happened? NASA could walk to the Supreme Court and carry those 7 judges and take them to the bush. The security of tenure of a judge, security of tenure of a civil servant is insulated from any political.
So no need for legislative review is what I hear you say.
There is no way anybody can legislate to remove that, because if you have a civil service that is political, how will you work? Because the civil service only implements what the legislature and what the cabinet does through policy. So in my own view, these are political talks. No civil servant is going to lose a job.
It's going anywhere.
Remember what happened with the Nairobi City Council when Karisa Maitha the late came and he was walking to offices and telling you, what is your tribe? You have been sacked. What is your height? You have been sacked. That cannot happen. All those guys just looked at him and laughed. So there is permanency of civil servants.
Okay, Gabriel, finally, as we wind up on this, given that a lot of people believe, well, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but there is some significant belief that this could be something that impedes the ability of governors to hit the road running. How do we not end up in a situation where it's taking more than a year to deal with county staff issues before actual work is happening on the ground?
And Anne, actually that's a very brilliant question, because there's something that you asked earlier on. When will we ever set a stage where someone, a governor could be political, and you have a deputy who's like real encroached into, it's more like not really a political thing.
Yeah.
And the word we were looking for,
perhaps.
the word we were looking for is having some sort of transition. And it makes so much sense, because look at it. You want a governor to start or to hit the ground running, but before you get your footing together, it's a year plus.
Right.
So there must be, Bona Dunstan, some element of, call it what you may, whether it's going to be how the counties will be set. You have some board, because really what counties are looking for, and the people in Mashinani, half of them may not care about the stuff, really. They are like, I want representation. I know what I'm suffering from. It is the hospitals that we want. It is the roads. It is the services that we need. How do we have a platform or a group of people, could be a county board if you will, that will sit down and say, when the governor comes in, these are the issues that they must deal with. And these are core people who are within that particular county. Because look at it this way, Anne. For instance, you have somebody like Governor Her Excellency Joyce Laboso coming in. All the staff that were reporting to Ruto are actually, they are like sitting on hot coal. They don't know what happens tomorrow, but they have an idea that they must leave. So where is the transition going to be based? Are these people just going, is it a clean slate that everybody must move? And before you get people who are going to develop an element of loyalty to you, because from what I've heard, the few inaugurations that I've attended, the word loyalty comes to play so much, because they say the gubernatorial, where that seat depends on who is supporting you. Number one, like I told you, it's a it's a very political seat. You also have the MCAs who can actually be induced to create problems to you. Yesterday, I was happy to attend the inauguration of High Excellency Mombu Iguru, and there was somebody who lined up the MCAs, and I found these to actually be, it's almost like a riot act that everybody was ready to. You are the people who need to hold this county in the highest of esteem. Do not give your governor unnecessary and undue pressure.
Now, who was saying that?
Now, there was somebody who was advising the MCAs.
Right, okay.
Because he said, this is where the problems are started. And he went to quote Wambora. And it's true, Wambora, if you look at Wambora, his problems, even though we say he has 9 lives, and started with the MCAs. So your question makes a lot of sense in that it will take a long period of time for the governor to even start running. You have to deal with staff issues. And remember, most of them is loyalty. And I'm coming to tell you, and if you're the governor, I'll remind you, you said, if this group elected you, you would give something. You would make a position, open for us. So it has to be in tuned with the locals, the county population, that these are the projects that we want. And any governor coming in, we must direct them to this particular project, and I believe that may work.
Yeah, but
so I think in a legislative manner, there has to be something that will allow that transition. Otherwise, they'll spend so much.
Let's just balance it for me, Dunstan, if you would, because there is purely the administrative work, the running of the county, which, as you have rightly said, needs to be insulated from political overtones. But the very nature that this is an office which is elected and not appointed means that it is a political office, and so you can expect political interference in its running. How do you, can you at all separate the two? And if you would, then what kind of political maneuvers are required within the context of the law to hold county governments together, given the permanency, if you're saying, of most staff?
What I've said, the county governments have 2 layers of staff. There is a political division of the staff called the county executive. The county executives, being the cabinet secretary, the PSS, and the political advisors. Those ones are the people who make policy. Those are the ones that the governor works with very well. Then there are civil servants that are permanent and pensionable. Their role is to implement. The way they implement their role is not by directives. They implement their roles through the public, through the regulations that are there. For the benefit of the viewers, and I have been a civil servant for the last 21 years and understand the bureaucracy. When we talk about the bureaucracy of a civil servant, a civil servant has no loyalty to anybody. He has only loyalty to the law. For example,
ideally,
it is
ideally that should be the case.
As I'm saying,
when we have seen civil servants on the road campaigning, so
to me, whenever anybody says that a cabinet secretary was seen campaigning, did you see a real civil servant campaigning? The people who are campaigning were the political wing of government. Those cabinet secretaries, PSs, and also the top political advisors will always leave. You've never seen a civil servant called a clerk. You've never seen a civil servant called those guys who work, do that political stuff.
What about chiefs?
Chiefs are civil servants.
Have we seen them campaign?
And as a lawyer, the only time I confirm that there is an illegality is when somebody has been arrested and convicted. Perception is one thing or another. For example, my talk is this. The governors have given solid governors who have the expertise in government and who have the expertise in politics. For example, you look at Nyeri, the Vision 2030 person. I don't expect the same argument to come from Gakuru. That is a solid governor. When you talk about the governor of Nyandarua, We are talking of Kimemia. Kimemia knows what boundaries. He has been the head of civil service. Did you see Kimemia at any one time when he was the head of civil service campaigning? His work was to run government. So in my own view, my position is that the governors, remember, let me give this, all these governors are going to Kabete for training, for induction. They don't know what they are doing. They will be reorientated, they will be trained, they will be told, this is not your job description. So for now, people are making utterances for political...
For lack of knowledge.
It is for lack of knowledge. My people suffer because of lack of knowledge. When they will be taken for training, this happened in 2013, when people thought, remember the governors thought they were presidents. When they came in 2013,
right.
and they were saying that this is my country. I need a flag, I need this. Then they were told, you are an independent entity, but dependent on the national government. So what we are seeing, I saw one governor here yesterday at night, and he's spitting fire. Then I said, gosh, he should now be told, within the counties, there is their county attorney general.
And I want us to talk about that in depth later when we talk about the new leaders, new code and training very shortly. But let's take a short break, and we're back with more on Citizen Extra after this. Stay with us.